Hello, hello. This is Unreal Sleeky coming at you with some information today on GodForge. This is my hero rankings and review. Um, Looking today just to spread knowledge, show some information that I've gathered here. One of the people that have been trying to make some community resources and making it for my cluster, and then also you'll see that on the official Discord under community resources. So I posted there a few times. There's a lot of other people there. Definitely check them out, doing great work and posting their content as well. One of the things I like about GodForge is how it brings everybody together. We're all kind of in this together. We're all trying to help each other. Even being a competitive game, I think that is pretty amazing. Just the community so far. So I'm gonna jump into doing some content creation as much as I can on the game, especially once it launches. So be on the lookout for a few videos, hopefully a week as that goes. I'll have some playthroughs, maybe some guides on a few things. So hopefully everyone enjoys my content, and if you don't, that's okay too. I'm doing this a lot for fun. I like doing these types of things. I've always wanted to get into this, so um, hopefully I'll do this for a while, and I'll do it as long as I find it fun, at least. So, all right, moving on into the reason for the video here: hero rankings and review. Sorry. So looking at that, I'm gonna read some disclosures here. 100% my opinion. I'm only using the heroes that had their core and ults confirmed with Fatalists video a couple weeks ago, where Simon was going through some of the champions to help people figure out, hey, who do I want to pick for this mini game? So, we have guides on that as well. The community resources, you'll see, my cluster has put together a guide there on who we think is the top people to take in the champion pool, the weapon, and the imprint. So definitely check that out under the community resources tab or joining our Discord. You'll see those links below, of course. So this is also subject to change. So I'm recording this December 29th. So if it's after December 29th and you see something that's off here, probably because it changed or I made a mistake. If I made a mistake, please call me out and let me know. I am happy to admit when I'm wrong, and hopefully, though, all the information I share is accurate and will help you out in the game. So, without further ado, let's move on to our first hero, looking at Athena. So, let you know how I have these ranked here. I got PvE, PvE clan boss, and rank PvP. So with PvE, it's just like general wave content. Just thinking how are they going to do on the waves. Clan boss, my head, I'm thinking more similar towards the Raid Shadow Legends clan boss, of course. I think it's kind of a big influence on this game, just given where the developers come from, and that's perfectly fine. I'm sure I have lots of twists, lots of fun new things to try out. So that was kind of what I was thinking there, is if this hero was in that game, how would they perform? And then PvP is just PvP, pretty straightforward. So looking at Athena, gives a big shield, some damage reduction as well, and then attacks all enemies with somewhat of a decent attack, and the attack gets stronger as other allies are hit under the shield. So get her C in PvE because of the ramp up time, basically. She doesn't give some survivability, which would be great, but it seems like it'll take a while for her to get her ult going, and really, I'm not sure how the stacking is going to work between each waves with the ramp up on the damage for the ultimate. So that's why I gave her a C there. A in clan boss gives them survivability. I think that's gonna be important, especially early game. Being able to live longer. That's the main reason I gave her A there, is having that pretty decent size shield and damage reduction. You really want to see, though, more buffs and debuffs. So I'm curious to see what her basic's going to be. Maybe it will be like a defense down or attack down. If that works out, then I think she'll go from an A maybe to an S, if it has a good chance of landing, or if she has some other kind of a buff or debuff. So we'll see what happens there. In the PvP, with the shields there, they can be dispelled, so very easily countered. And then again, the ramp up for the ultimate. I think without having the extra damage there, she's not going to be as good. So you can maybe build a niche shield team, but again, with the dispel and the block buffs, it's very easily countered. So I don't think that's going to be a big problem with PvP. I would assume PvP meta, at least starting out for the first few months, is going to be fast as you can, blender comps, things like that. It's probably not going to be a lot of turn 2. And she seems more like a turn 2 type of champion if that becomes a meta. All right, next is Hel. Now with Hel, I had her in Alpha Waves 2 and 3. So with Alpha Wave 2 and 3, she carried me. I got to know her very well. She was my only legendary for a while on both accounts, and she does a lot of damage. If they don't change her basic, it's a single target, do a lot of damage as well. But her core and ultimate do attack all enemies, so that's really good with a pretty big, sizable attack, 425% attack multiplier there on the core and 520 on the ultimate. So these are big attacks. So she could end up being a nuker and working her way up to be maybe an A tier in PvE, someone to help you farm. So something to look out for. The issue with that is her A1, if they don't change it, is a single target. So she may not be the best farmer because of that. Typically, you want some kind of AoE attack on the A1 as well, especially with the core being 4 turn cooldown, looks like there, based on this. And that may end up going down to 3, I would assume, through some kind of ascension, probably, or some kind of booking of some sort. So, I think a B, a C, and a C is appropriate for her. PvP, I think she could be a nuker there as well, if you have the ability to just, mow down the team with the core. I don't think you're going to be able to get the ultimate off in time. You might be able to with an up int, though. So if you build her with attack, speed, and int as their main focus. But then you also have crit and crit damage, so you're going to really start spreading out a lot of the stats there. So I think overall she'll be easily countered in PvP. So basically to counter it, people don't die, right? And then you don't die, and then they get a turn, and then you're squishy, and then you die. So, I was talking about turn 2, so she would be countered, I think, by turn 2 teams. And also, with her ult, she does bring people back to life. So, and then she gets a buff off that, and was her passive once they change that. So she does get a little bit of a passive. But I will say, she if you don't wipe out the team there and she revives them, then hey, they're going to be there to keep attacking you. So you really have to have someone to clean that up. So if you don't have your core available right after, or if you get CC'd or something like that and happens, then you can potentially cause yourself more problems by using the ultimate. That happened a few times in Alpha on the waves there. So that is something something to watch out for. So let's see here. Looking at the next one here is Freya. So with Freya, I have her pretty highly ranked here. She's going to be a turn meter booster. She's going to have some sort of healing, it looks like, with her core. And then she's also going to provide some decent buffs, attack up and sharpen. So, with her kit there, she's equalizing a turn meter when you're allies with their highest turn meter on their side, and then pushing by 20%. So basically that's saying, hey, you're going to go next. And that's a really great thing. So you can maybe have her as going first in a PvP team or PvE team, so if you make her real fast. But, you also may want to make her slower to go last, so you may be able to boost up one of your nukes there. So you would you have a hopefully 2 turn meter pushes there. If you have that, so like a Quetzalcoatl, and then you have some kind of defense down or attack up, and then you nuke, and then use her to bring your nuker back up, and you nuke again. So that's possible. Kind of fun to think about. We'll see what happens there, but she's all around a great champion, I think, to have she's going to have some heal as well on her A1, I assume. So some kind of mend probably. So that's why I put her as an A, and an S. All right, Metztli. S's across the board. She is fantastic. She removes disables and debuffs, puts a res up, and then she also revives. So you can't go wrong having her. It's not a lot of revivers on the game, really. So she's going to be a staple in a lot of teams. So if you can grab her, I don't think that is a bad idea. If you don't grab her right away, I think you'll still be fine. But she's going to help a lot once you get into that mid to late game with the revives, because you can only, just blast through content with, early level things so far, and then you're gonna hit a wall. So I think she's gonna help a lot of people over that wall with the revives and keeping the team going. So overall, I think she's gonna be great. All right, next, Quetzalcoatl, ranked as an A, an S, and an S. So all around great champion. I think a lot of people have him probably S's across the board. I have him at an A there for PvE. And he's gonna give you a turn meter push. Occasionally, he's going to give you some decent buffs with his ultimate. His ultimate actually has low divinity, so that's not gonna be an issue getting that a lot. So that's a good thing there. But the turn meter push is great. Other than that, though, if they keep things the same, I'm not ranking on this, but when he dies, he does revive another ally. So kind of gets you a pseudo tank or taunt, because you want to actually, while your other heroes are alive, right, or their heroes alive, you want to down Quetzalcoatl first, and then after that you want to down the rest, because if you down the rest and you do him, he's gonna then bring someone back that could end up being enough to win that round. So you got to be careful with that. So that kind of makes you think, what order do I want to down the heroes? And if you see them in waves, just keep that in mind. There was a wave in Alpha I had a lot of trouble with. I think 142, 143. I think the same wave everyone had trouble with for a while. And and that happened a lot, where you would get their team down, and then he'd revive, and then you just run out of gas. So something to keep an eye out for, but overall, could be great. Got him as for clan boss. Longer fights, he's gonna get more turn boost, get more value, more buffs as well. So overall, I think he's gonna be great. And then in PvP, of course, anytime you have a turn booster and a buffer, you're gonna be in a good shape there. So, all right, looking at Ra. Ra is great. S's across the board as well. And here's why. He's got a good chance, 75% chance placing the Blaze, which is like a burn in Raid Shadow Legends, right? So it's going to do some damage to everybody. And then if this ability defeats an enemy, right, it decreases this cooldown by 1 turn. So you can, on waves especially, kind of maybe pump this out very quickly. And then, with his ultimate, he gives defense down and vulnerable. So, defense down and weaken. And I think that is, as far as I know, it's the only person that has that so far. So just, looking at that champion there. I could be wrong. There's probably someone I'm forgetting that has that. We'll find out in the rest of the video, maybe. Or maybe maybe it's someone I'm not reviewing today. And maybe you know about somebody. But yeah, having those two debuffs together is what you want, especially for like clan boss, to boost up that damage, and then PvP as well. So overall, I've got him S's across the board. I think he's going to be someone that a lot of people be scared of. Now, I know what you're thinking. In PvP, you can debuff a lot of those things. So like looking at Metztli would probably counter him because she removes the two debuffs, right? So I think, you can be countered, but they're going to have to bring someone to do that. So you can kind of force someone into a certain comp. Maybe they don't want to play that comp, or maybe they don't have the right heroes for that comp. So if they don't have an answer for him, I think that he is really good for those reasons. All right, looking at Vivien. So Vivien is kind of everywhere. I have her as an A, an S, and a C. And what I'm thinking here with her is, she gives you some okay buffs, attack up and defense up, which, that's offense and a defense buff. Typically, you'd want like offense, offense, or defense, defense, or something like that. So, but she does increase the duration of buffs on allies by 1 turn. So that's why I have her as an S for clan boss, because there's not gonna be a lot of champions that do the buff extension. So she maybe enables some like unkillable comps. Someone that can enable that. And then for PvP, I got her as a C. I mean, the buffs don't really do too much for me there. Buff extension doesn't do a lot, especially with the ability to dispel things and PvP. And then she does have a remove all disables there, but her divinity's pretty high, 1650. So you're gonna have to have a couple 3 turns before you get to that, most likely, unless you stack the initiation. Now, if you look there, her multiplier is 1,000% for initiation. So I mean, you want to stack down her. So maybe it's only a couple turns, every 3 turns or so after the first time. But she's only removing disables. She removes debuffs on Avalon. So I mean, if you could somehow build an Avalon team in PvP, maybe it's okay. And she only attacks 1 enemy, but then she has an ally joint attack. So, the ally joint attack is pretty nice, but it's just gonna be with their basic, right? Which is extra damage. So a lot of it may just depend on how strong your other champions are. But if the target's defeated, then you increase the turn meter of all allies by 20%, which is okay. 20% will get you around a little bit faster, but I just think too much ramp up time for PvP. By the time you get all that off, you're probably going to be dead. So PvE though, I think she's decent, and then of course clan boss I already talked about. So alrighty, looking at Anubis. So Anubis, I've got him as a B, and an A. And here's what I'm thinking with Anubis. I'm thinking that he does have the corrupt, right, which prevents the buff from going on, and initiation down. You got some HP percent on the multiplier, which makes me think you can build a little more tanky in early access and when the game releases. I didn't play him much in alpha, to be honest. I had my core team. He was not really part of it. Maybe I should have played around with him a bit more. So I think though you can make him a bit tankier. He does have 2 AoEs as well, so that's why I got him as an A on PvE. And then on PvP, also an A, because it will tank, got some good debuffs. And then he has some heals well with his ultimate, so, or a shield. So either way, he's healing or shielding himself. Now, of course, the shield can be dispelled, but I think that overall, he's going to get some sustain out of that, or force them to use some kind of dispel there. So I think he'll be decent in PvP, especially early on. And then of course PvE clan boss. It's a B. I don't think he's gonna have a lot to help with there. I may even should have done a C there. The reason I really did a B is because it gives some survivability with his ultimate, and maybe a little more tanky. So maybe you can just kind of stay alive a long time if you build him right and do some decent damage. But maybe I should have made him a C there. He doesn't have really any buffs or debuffs that you really want to bring to a clan boss. So I'm not sure why I did B. Now I think about it, but we'll leave him there for now, and we'll update this later if we need be. So okay, next is Artemis. Artemis is kind of all over the place as well. I got a B, a C, and an A here. So just regular PvE content. Does have a attack all enemies 3 times, which is great. It increases some divinity as well, which leads you into the ultimate. So that gets you a really good single target, 400% on the multiplier there, and some damage increase there. So having attack all enemies 3 times, thinking a B for PvE and A for PvP. Now, also on the PvP side, the ultimate, we don't see this here, and I'm assuming this is an awakening thing here, but we have a confuse and a defense down. So I'm thinking once you get her certain awakening, she's going to have those, which would be great for PvP. Anytime you can get confused and defense down, it's going to help a bit. Clan boss, I don't think those things are going to be too useful. Defense down is good, but again, other champions I think do a better job there. So, alrighty, so got that done. Let's see here. Dracula, got him as A, and S, and a C there. You know, just general PvE. He's got the AOE, so and the bleeds. So I think overall he's going to help you get through some waves pretty quickly. And then, he has the ability for extra turn as well, which is never bad. For Clan Boss, with the bleed stacking, there's lots of comps that were in alpha with him as well. So I think he will be also really good in launch for Clan Boss. And then we have his PvP rank, which I don't see him doing much in PvP. You can just dispel the bleeds. So once you do that, his whole thing's kind of over. So. Alright, looking at Hades. So Hades I have as an S, a B, and an S. So he's got the attack all enemies with the lock ultimate ability and the despair as well. So those are great to have. And then, with his ult, he's got the speed down, initiation down. So, for waves and PvP, I think, having those debuffs are going to be good to have. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't have those. The speed down is really good in PvP, of course, and also wave content, But Clan Boss, I don't see them helping much. Speed down, if the Clan Boss is able to have speed down, is okay. Initiation down, I'm assuming the Clan Boss isn't going to be affected by that. Obviously not going to be affected by Despair Lock ultimate ability. So that's why I have him as a B there. Okay, looking up next at Isis. So Isis, one of the top champions. You definitely want Isis on your account. So we have Isis S across the board. You have shields, defense up. So two things that kind of have synergy there. Gets an extra turn there as well, and then revives all allies, which is great, and then gives you HP turn meter. If Horus is revived, place radiance, so we give him a little bit of a buff as well. So you don't have to have Horus on your team. When I played in alpha, I almost never did. So whenever you're looking at her, though, she's really great. All around, she's going to help you. Kind of the same thing that I said about Metztli earlier. Or Metztli, sorry. I mixed Quetzalcoatl and Metztli. But Metztli earlier, she's going to help you, Isis as well, get through some of the harder content. Alrighty, Loki. Loki got a B, a C, and an S. So with Loki, PvE, he's going to help a little bit. He's going to sleep all enemies, which isn't terrible. I think that's not a bad thing to have in just general wave content and PvP as well. So that is someone that can turn the tides, especially on a PvP battle if they don't have an answer for sleeping. And then looking at the attacking all enemies on his ultimate with some extra accuracy. So he's already going to build accuracy just to help with the damage increase there. Divinity's not too high at 1250 as well, so that's something that I think you can get out pretty quickly. He also plays his advantage and reflect on himself, and potential place corrupt on the enemies. So overall, he's got a lot of stuff going on. I think that's good for PvP. And then he gets some divinity when he does some damage to someone under sleep. So some synergy there, and I think that he is going to be decent PvP. Unless there's a way to, kind of just nuke him off the map there. So we'll see what happens. With the reflect, though, I think that kind of makes you do a hesitation on that, unless they can nuke you before you can get that off, right? Or get you Loki down. Let's see here. What am I thinking? So Clan Boss on a C. He's just not bringing much for Clan Boss. There's not any debuffs or buffs that you want to have, so he gets a C. All right. So next is Mulan. So looking at Mulan, I have her as a B, a C, and a C. So she's more of a single target kind of gal. She does a decent on her core, 370% for the multiplier there. And then she does give some increased inflicted damage, 10% for each living enemy. So, for wave content, typically there's going to be some enemies, right? So she'll get some of that, and she gets advantage as well. And then on the ultimate, again, not too high divinity, 1200, but she attacks one enemy 3 times, plans to trace a drain and a hex on the target, and then if they're defeated, decreases the divinity cost by 10%, stacking up to 3 times. So, yeah, I think in waves she'll be decent. PvP, I don't think she's going to have anything there. And then, clan boss, I don't think she's going to have much there either. So, all right, Sun Wukong. And this is where I'm going to get a lot of flack, I think, because Sun Wukong, a lot of people have ranked a bit higher. But hear me out on a few of this here. All right, so he does have attack up on himself with his core, which is decent, right? And he attacks all enemies 2 times. So that's why I have him got as an A for just general PPE, right? And then for each buff, he increases the damage inflicted. So, I mean, theoretically, if you had a bunch of buffs on him, right, you could one-shot waves maybe if you have them set up. But when you go to the next round, those drop off potentially, so then you're restarting. So what we're lacking in clan boss, there's no team attack up, there's no defense down, attack down. There's nothing that you want to bring for I assume the clan boss here. So I think that he's got a B. Now I got him as a B, not a C, because he does do a lot of damage, right? He's gonna be able to pump out some damage. So that's why I got him as a B. It's just missing a lot of the other things that you would typically want to have. But if you build a team around him that has those things and you can still slot him in, he may be able to push you. But I think a lot of times whenever you're looking at, especially early clan boss teams, you're going for acids and bleeds and burns, the dot teams. So I think he won't be used as much for clan boss because of that. Because you're going to have the right team around him to be able to enable him to survive and do the damage. And then for PvP, his ult is good. It shouldn't take a minute to get to it probably. You should only start at 100 divinity versus the 1200 there you need. You're not going to stack divinity, so it's probably going to take you a couple, 3 turns to get to that. And then you attack 8 times at random, right? So some RNG there, which I don't like RNG in games too much when it comes to this type of stuff for ratings. And then each hit only has a 35% chance. So if you're looking at that, maybe you get around two times when you do the 8, right? But you get some heals off that and decrease their turn meter. You don't steal their turn meter, you just decrease it. I wish it said steal there, that make it a little bit better. And then if they hit more than 5 times, you reduce damage. So overall, just based on his core and ultimate. So that's the only thing I'm basing this on, right? Core and ultimate. So just keep that in mind. Basing it on those things, not as passive, not as basic. I gotta give him a B there. Now, once we get more information and more confirmed things next month, I think a lot of information is coming out. I'll update this. I think it'll be a different story then potentially. All right. So looking at Cixin, you got him as an S, an A, and a B. So I think he's going to be great. AoE Blaze, which is good. High attack multiplier on the core. Really good. So it's going to help burn through those waves there. For Clan Boss, it'll do okay, but I think he'll do some damage. The reason I got him an A there is also because on its ultimate, it activates Acid and Blazes. So I think that is a way that you can be able to put more dots out, more damage over that time period that you'll have to battle. And then for PvP, I just don't see him being too great. If you're going to go for like some kind of nuker, then like Hell would be better in that situation. So, but that's why I got him there as a B. He does have the Blaze, which could potentially gallop you a bit if they don't have someone to debuff that, but most likely they're going to have someone, right? Okay, next is Grendall. So with Grendall, S, a C, and an A. So He does have tackle enemies, right? He's got some HP multiplier, so he's gonna be more on the tanky side most likely, and he's got a chance to play despair, chance to place despair for 1 turn. And then he tackle enemies, another activator as well on the acid and blaze, and also applies precision. So overall, I think he'll help a lot with waves for the debuffs there. And then the clan boss I have as a C, just because I don't think he's going to help you too much with the clan boss not having any really buffs or debuffs. Now, if his core or his basic is an acid or blaze, that could change things a little bit for me there. But I don't know what his core is going to be. Not his core. His basic's going to be. Yep. So, and I've got, you might be thinking, well, you put Cixin as an A in clan boss. Well, that's because he had the blaze. So he's able to place it and then activate it. And then if you have an acid person on your team as well, that could also be something to consider. But with Grendall, he activates, but he doesn't place. So that's why I got him as a C there. And then PvP, got him there mostly for his core ability. Despair for 1 turn, attacks all enemies. So I think that's a good debuff to have, and I think that could be useful, at least in PvP. All right, so looking at the next one's Heimdall. With Heimdall, he S's across the board. He's exactly what you want. Gives you retaliate and intercept, and then he also gives you a defense up, a protect, and a shield on his ult. So overall, he is going to be one of the best sustain units in the game. I know in alpha, whenever I use the ult, I pretty much never died. I mean, that shield was massive. Now they could change that, but that's what it looks like for the ult when I was playing. So he's going to be able to really help carry you through the games. It doesn't have revive, but he's going to help you survive a lot. So I think he will be in a lot of different teams there for all content. All right, Hercules. So Hercules, I think, is going to be an A, a C, and a C. So general PvE is going to give us some, some stun ability, which is okay, and also he's going to give you a cheat death, right? Denied death. So, and he's going to give himself some shield, which helps a little bit. So PvE, I think he's going to be okay. And then really clan boss, he's not doing much for me there, or PvP. So I just don't see him being used very much in those situations. I could be wrong again, but that's what I'm seeing here. All right, Pazuzu. So I get S and A. So it does have an AoE with Corrupt and also Fear. Although they have it listed as Terrify. So I'm not sure if there is going to be also a Fear. Oh, the target's aligned with Order. So maybe they don't list that there. But that's okay. But he does have the Corrupt. And then, again, the Terrify is there, which I don't see the Terrify listed in the description. So that may be an Awakening thing where you get the Terrify. But, overall, though, attacks all enemies, gets the Corrupt out. Not a bad thing, 75% chance. So I think for PvE, that's going to be decent on the waves. And also the clan boss, the reason I got him there is he's going to attack and have a chance to place vulnerable, acid, and curse. Main word there for me is and. It's not or, it's and. So, you're looking at placing all 3 of them. And, you have 50% chance. You're attacking 3 times. You have like an 80% chance of hitting that, if you're looking at multiplying that out. So high uptime on that. Ultimate does have a higher divinity, 1500. He only gains 20 divinity when placing a debuff. So I'm not sure what his basic is. I'm assuming it's going to be placed some kind of debuff. Hopefully it's like an attack down or something like that. I think that'd be really good for him. But that is why I have him listed there. In PvP, I think he's going to be easily countered. Not going to bring too much, just in the debuffs. So, but does have good attacks, AoE attacks. So I think he'll be able to whittle people down And with the debuffs, I think that makes somewhat where they have to bring someone to deal with that. If they don't, then that's going to hurt them. So, alrighty. Next up here is looking at Perun. So I have him as a B, a C, and an S. He's kind of all over the place. Just general PvE and clan boss. I don't see him used too much. Reduces the turn meter, which isn't terrible, right? On the core ability for PvE, I don't think you can reduce the turn meter for the clan boss, so I don't think that's going to be useful there. And then PvP, that'll certainly be useful, right? So that's why I have him there. And then for the ultimate, attacks at random. Again, I don't like the random, but that's okay. Each hit can decrease the target's turn meter. Again, you can't do that in clan boss, but you can in PvP, which is not bad. And additional attacks against the same target reduces the turn meter by 5%. So, you're looking at a total of, 10 to 20% on the decrease. Now, again, it doesn't say steal. It says decrease. And then also is a 35% chance. So it's not a high. But, if you get one or two of those out of that, if it's the right person in PvP, it could be okay. But really the core ability is why I have the PvP ranked as an S, because you have, all enemies, 79% chance, so that's a decent chance, and then reducing it by 20%. So sometimes I think that can help turn the tide there on the battle for PvP. I could be wrong there. I may have them too high. Maybe it should be an A there. Let me know what you think. All right, so next up, Shamash. He's S's across the board. He's great. He's got a single target, and then all allies join. He has 7% place Aether Burn, so that's really good. Revives as well. So anytime you have a revive, especially early in the game, I think it helps a lot. And then he also has a good heal and a shield. So, and the first time allies killed in battle, he automatically activates this. So, and then also gives them radiance and attack up. Normally the people that die are going to be people that need those buffs. So I think overall he's going to be great. Same as Isis and Metztli. I think they're going to be kind of the three main supports you want to have. So, and then I believe the last one here is Wang. And he has a B, and an S. So overall for PvE and clan boss, he attacks one enemy on his core, 75% chance. Place a random, so I like random there, and one of those. It's an or, it's not an and, so one of those. So it's hard to build around that. And it's only one enemy, so it was AOE that make rank PvE a little better. Now his ultimate is AOE, locks all enemies, cores and passives on a 35% chance. It's a lower chance, and you have a higher divinity. I did put him as an S for PvP because you don't see that ability much where you can lock out both, and I think that is something that is important. Because of the way doing that, it's for 2 turns. So they're just going to sit there and have to use their basics without the way doing that. So I think that's going to force just having him on the field. They have to deal with that. If they have some kind of blender comp and that gets messed up, and then you use this somehow, it's GG's for them. So for PvP, I think he's going to be okay. Especially early game when there's not a lot of options for the debuffs. Alrighty. So I did go ahead and put the tier list here. So if you want just to pause and take a screenshot of this, you can. As far as I'm concerned there. This is also on my resources page on the website, which we're going to show you here in a second. Or it's actually at the bottom, chpgaming.com. But you'll see on my resources tab under the heroes tier list, it's also there on that spreadsheet. So that's for the PvE. I'll go to the PvP now. Alrighty, so for the PvP, there we go. You can pause that one as well. And that's what that looks like if you kind of look that out. I didn't do like PvP or PvE clan boss, so just note that. I only did the general PvE and the PvP. Didn't want to make too much, confuse too many people. So I just made those two, and that should give you a good idea of which champions do what and where you want them, in my opinion. Again, this whole video is my opinion. So, alrighty. So looking at the last page here, just saying, visit us, CHP Gaming, join our community. Great community to be a part of. I have enjoyed being a part of the community. Been here for a few months now. Always been kind of out of a cluster, kind of solo, running my own clan in other games. But joined the gaming community here, and very active Discord, lots of camaraderie, lots of helping, which, at the beginning I talked about, GodForge being really great because of the community it's brought for everyone to help each other. And that's kind of what this is about. So definitely check us out. I'll put that in the link below there if you want to join us. So, and I think that will do it for our video here. Thank you for listening, and watch out for our next video here. I'll probably do either weapons or imprints next in the same kind of format. So let me know feedback. You like this format? Don't like it? I could have done the tier list as I've seen other people do with just a tier list maker, which I did do that, but I didn't make a video about it. But I could have done that, and maybe that would have been better. This just gives us a little bit different visuals, I think. And then at the end, I also make the own tier list, just different, right? So hopefully all that comes together for you. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'm happy. You can reach me on Discord anytime, or just leave a comment below. All right. Hope everyone has a great evening. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.